Final hour OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Bryan Hayes, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, and Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star, and there he is from First Up, Carlo Colaiacovo in the house.
What's up, fellas?
How we doing, buddy?
Heard you guys had a nice discussion about a tush push.
Yes.
Early on.
What is his philosophy on the tush push?
Where do you stand on it?
Hey, if you can't stop it, it's your loss, man.
Yeah?
This whole Green Bay Packers, of course, they're
This
the
guy
guys
wants
that
to
can play.
ban
Well, listen, finally someone
guy wants
steps
to
up and
ban
has
it.
the stones to realize it's
So
bad for the sport,
here's
bad
why
for
I say
entertainment.
don't ban it. Because a lot of people thought it was Jason Kelce that was the guy that orchestrated everything. He's gone.
Yeah, and it still works.
And they still found a way. And so there's a skill element to it. I heard your defense to it, and I agree, Dave. I just think that if everybody in the league was doing it, you can understand, okay, maybe taking a look at it. But there's only one team in the league that really has...
That's perfected it.
That's
for the
perfected
most part.
it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
listen, credit to the Eagles. Like, I'm not. It's not like I'm taking their flowers away.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why they got their flowers, what they've done. I do think there is a health and safety element to it.
That's fair.
That appears to be getting a little bit louder within the game in terms of like how players are attacking the line of scrimmage and what's going to happen at some point. But again, I would ask you guys, like, sure, it's easy to say that, credit where credit is due. Is there, from an entertainment standpoint, as a viewer, is there entertainment in something, in a play that is 100% successful?
Yeah, there is. If they're
There
the only
is.
team that can do it.
That's
They're the
entertainment.
team.
I actually
Okay.
laugh every time
All right.
the Eagles get short yardage. I'm like, okay, here it comes.
Yeah, you know
tush
it's
push.
coming, and it works every single time.
I mean, it won't last
I
forever.
wanted to say that about my Bills.
They're pretty good at it until that one time in
yeah,
Kansas
it's like,
City.
okay, we got to get it. I was nervous watching it. They didn't get it.
Yeah, well, and that's the
So-
thing. Once someone does stop them, then the problem is also there's an element of embarrassment that terrifies defensive coordinators, and I'll admit this is a loser's mentality. That they're going to set up for it and they're going to fake it, and someone's going to go deep and they're going to somehow pull a play action tush push, and you're like, what are we supposed to do here? How are we supposed to handle this?
The
Because we
flea
have to
flicker.
sell out. Yeah, and anyway,
Well, let's just say this: like, at least we're in an era in the NFL where people aren't punting on 4th and 1. Remember that?
Yes.
Remember that era?
Yeah.
Where everybody just was that fun, Hayes?
Yeah.
Was that fun to watch?
no,
Mike Tomlin
Not
did it against the
necessarily.
Ravens.
yeah,
You know, down 2 scores, 4th and inches, and he punted it from his own 40.
yep. Game has changed drastically.
Is there any chance that they will develop a way to stop it? That's because everybody is
Everyone's trying to.
they're trying to. But I'm just
figure out a
saying there
way.
is some defensive coordinator out there that is a savant that is going to be like, you need to do this to shut it down.
I also
sure what
think,
it
too,
is.
like, there's a skill element to the quarterback. Like, Jalen Hurts is a beast
Yep.
when it comes to, you know, lifting weights, the power that he uses with his legs. Not every quarterback's built like that. Like, Patrick Mahomes ain't executing that if you're pushing him from behind.
Yeah. Well, and also I do wonder though if Hurts is going to, like, if he gets injured on that play at some point, is he going
Yeah.
to look back and say, you've taken advantage of my ability to get that extra yard or two? Like, I don't think Kansas City would want to do it because they wouldn't want to allow Mahomes to be in a position to get hit.
Hurt. Yeah.
That's the
You know,
thing.
that's
Like,
another
why,
part of it.
That's why I have a problem with the rule change here. Like, this is, to Carlo's point, this is so specific to the talent that is Jalen Hurts, the body that is Jalen Hurts, and the talent and bodies of that offensive line.
Yeah.
That is a state-of-the-art offensive
Massive
line.
offensive
So it's
line.
not like this is just, you know, something that everybody else can replicate. And suddenly the game is not fun anymore because it's basically you only have to get 9 yards. You don't have to get 10 anymore because the last yard is
But that's
guaranteed.
basically what it is.
For them.
Yes, for
For
them
them.
in particular, yes. It is
Right.
effectively, if it's third and anything inside a yard and a half, they're going for it. On their own
20.
15-yard line, 20-yard line. They're going to go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but I mean,
they're
well,
gonna
not
achieve
to, to Noodle's point though. I don't think it'll last forever.
Well, no, at
Hurts
some
might
point
not
it
want to
won't.
do it much longer. I mean,
Yeah.
he may have a player safety issue at some point in his
Yep.
career where he says, "I'm getting too old."
Oh,
for
you
this."
also have to know in those piles, there's probably guys taking liberties.
Well,
at
that's
each
what I
other,
was just
too,
going
like
to
old
say.
school,
Like
man.
somebody's going to
elbows.
get cut in half in there, and they're going to go, we got to deal with this because, you know, it might be old school prison rules in there.
Yeah.
And somebody comes out with a broken leg or a pulled off face. You know?
That's old school. I don't know if we're living in that area anymore, but it would have been the case back
Who
in
was
the
the
day.
guy?
for
Was
sure.
it LT? Who was like the meanest?
Well, Dick Butkus back in the day was known
Poke your eyes out.
to be absolutely insane. What he'd be yelling and saying to the quarterback, the running back,
Yeah.
like just obscenities that would make your stomach turn.
Yeah.
Like I am going be just.
Yeah. You and
you
your
can
wife
imagine
and
what
your
he's saying.
family,
I'm
and
going to kill you. And I'm coming for you. I'm going to get you. And he was an all-time great.
Yeah.
All right, so you're in here tonight. What do we get? The Habs in action tonight.
Yeah.
We got the Leafs on TSN tonight. The
Big
Habs are an
night.
interesting spot because like 3 weeks ago, it felt like they might be buyers and they're red hot. They're in it. And now you get through the Four Nations and you realize it's probably not going to happen. Jake Evans is a name that's out there. David Savard's name is constantly out there. I mean, what is your read on the Habs and what would be their best course of action between now and the trade deadline?
Well, look, they put themselves in a difficult position going into the break, losing 6 of 7, considering there was that month stretch where they had the best record of hockey between early December and early January, and they actually sniffed the last playoff spot. And it's amazing how things can change in the league between, winning streaks and losing streaks. You go on a, handful winning streak, you're in the playoff mix, you lose 5 or more games in a row, you're out of it. And I think for the Montreal Canadiens, like a lot of their success came because there was a fire that was lit under this team when Patrick Laine came into the lineup. Everybody, sort of piggyback it off of that, just incredible surge that he had, scoring all those goals. And they were playing just with a newfound energy. And that catches up to you, right? And they were winning games they probably shouldn't have won. And then in games that they probably should have won, they were losing those in those 6 and 7 games. So for Montreal, I think, look, if they can still be competitive, it would be great. But I think they can't lose track of where they are. And they've done a great job of, accumulating assets over the last couple of years. And I think they can't get away from that. If Jake Evans is a guy who's been a really nice fit as a role player on that team, third-line center, him and Armia found a nice chemistry together. If they can find a way to keep him, he's a guy that they've developed on their own. He can kill penalties. He scores a bunch of shorthanded goals, too. David Savard is a piece that everybody's going to be going after, that rugged, right-handed shot defenseman. Lucky for them, they've been developing a lot of young defensemen in their system over the last couple of years, so maybe that loss of him this year and maybe next year won't be, impacted as much. But I think they really got to see what happens this week. They started off great with their first game against Ottawa. I believe you did that game.
No, I didn't. I watched it.
Right.
I mean, Ottawa was asleep and Montreal wasn't.
Yeah, and I think
played well.
If they find themselves back into the race, I mean, you know how it is every year. Nothing's guaranteed. I would love for them to see them give this group a chance to go for it, but you got to manage your
5
assets.
points out right now.
Yeah.
And
5
some
points
teams
out.
to leap and all that. I think they weren't as bad as they were at the start of the year. I think they overachieved in that run, and they're kind of just a meddling. I've always said this. I feel like they're an 84-point team this season, and which is not bad. It's it's playing meaningful hockey down the stretch. You're a former defenseman, as you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
both
for the
you to weigh
inclusion.
both of you to weigh in.
When I played with him, he was a forward.
Yes,
Sick
that's right.
center iceman, though.
Really,
Yeah.
him and Stage.
Him and
That's right.
Stage.
Oh, yeah, Stage. I took him under my wing.
Where's Lane Hutson? Like, what do you? I mean, where do you think his ceiling is once he really settles into the league and gets maybe a little bit more meat on him? Just gets a little bit of that man strength too.
So this is my 5th season doing Habs on TSN, and I'm not going to lie, the last couple of years have been really rough.
yeah.
There's been a new level of excitement for me watching the Habs play this year just because of Lane Hutson.
Really.
This guy he's always making stuff happen when there's nothing there. There's no play to be made. It's either a quick shoulder check, it's a quick spinorama, it's a quick foot shuffle. It's something outrageous that he's doing, and he's creating something out of nothing, especially in the offensive zone. He's got such a creative mind when it comes to the way he thinks offense, the way he tries to produce offense. If you're a forward, you got to love playing with this guy because you're getting the puck, and sometimes in unexpected places. I think his ceiling, I think he can easily, I wouldn't say easily, I think he has the potential to be as good as Quinn Hughes one day.
Really.
Wow.
That's as high of a
high
praise.
bar.
I mean, it's Hughes and McCarr, the two best defensemen in the league. That's as high as it can get.
And look, it's going to take him a little bit to get there. He skates as good as him.
Yep.
He
got
moves
confidence
the
like
puck.
him.
He's got crazy confidence for a rookie.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to put up 60 points this year in his rookie season. I mean, we haven't seen
Probably
that done
between
on-
him and Celebrini, is it not?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think in terms of
Yes.
like the odds on FanDuel, Celebrini's like minus 350 or something, minus 300. And Hutson, I think, is 2. Dustin Wolf, I think, is 3.
Yeah, got to give
Yeah.
Wolf some love, too,
but Wolf's
especially
a little
if
bit
Calgary
further
makes
back.
the
If they make
playoffs.
Yeah,
the
big time.
playoffs, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, Wolf.
For
Big time.
sure.
Yeah.
But I love the kid, man. And
He's fun to watch.
he's got a brother coming into the
That's
league,
crazy.
too.
Washington, I think, has his
Washington,
brother,
yeah.
right?
As if they need any more.
That's
good
what's
young
scary.
players.
Washington's got a great farm system.
Yeah.
They get 2 or 3 kids like knocking on the door to be
Well,
significant
they've won the
players.
Calder Cup the last 2 years, haven't they?
That's,
Yeah.
they've got some depth there and guys knocking at the door. So all that does is just push guys out.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, it
You got
sets
young
up
guys that
beautifully.
are pushing through that are on cost-effective contracts. You can push somebody out that's making a lot of money, make him expendable. Like, that's a nice system there. Like, I don't think the management gets enough credit in Washington for kind of this. I don't think that was a retool on the fly, but it was just weird. We all thought, okay, this is it. It's just about Ovi scoring goals. That's
Door-
it.
the window
That was
closes.
my impression.
Yeah.
And at every hit, I've said this 10 times on this show, every move they made in the offseason
Has worked out.
hit.
But Dubois, too.
Dubois, Mangiapane, Logan Thompson,
Chychrun.
that Duhaime on the fourth line.
They brought in
Big-
the Roy defenseman. Is it Roy?
yeah, Matt Roy.
Yeah,
Matt Roy.
Yeah.
Like, that's another just under the radar,
Yeah.
really good signing. Like, they're a really good team, but a lot of that is because of the offseason moves of the manager.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. And yet Winnipeg won their 10th in a row and leapfrogged them last night.
Crazy.
And yeah, it went to overtime against San Jose, but Scheifele wins it in overtime. And like they have won 10 in a row.
Hayes, I did their
It's
game.
incredible, Winnipeg.
I did their game. It was the week before the break. And it was, I'm trying to think, it was against Carolina. Okay? And Comrie played.
Yeah.
They shut out Carolina with Comrie in net. And their power play is absurd. Like, so good. They scored 2 power play goals that game, and that's literally all the offensive chances that they got. That team is so deep in just guys that know how to play their roles. Like, they don't have, like, brand name type players, aside from Scheifele, Connor, Velarde, who's found a nice...
Morrissey, yeah.
Morrissey's unreal.
Yeah.
But other than that, they just have guys that just know their roles, know what they're expected to do when they're on the ice, and they plug and play so nicely. They're so hard to play against defensively because they're big and they're physical. But on the offense too, they're so well disciplined in their position, and no one's talking about them. And it just feels like everyone.
You know why, Carlo?
Everyone's like, because it's
they're-
Winnipeg, but
Yeah.
Lack of
they're
success in the
literally an
playoffs.
unreal team.
Yeah, they've
Oh,
done
but
it from
they're-
the hop, man.
but they're-
15-1.
But I hate to say it, but they're a little bit like the Maple Leafs West, right? Like where it's
In
you're
terms
kind
of
of just
their playoffs, yeah.
yeah when it comes to the playoffs. And
Yeah.
and look, maybe I wonder if Hellebuck having a really good Four Nations where he's had some real disappointments and big moments in the postseason. Does that change the landscape in the way where the people are spinning that Marner being a clutch player for Canada might change his outlook in a playoff series?
Hope so.
Do you buy into that?
Look, for Marner, you mean?
Well, or Hellebuck. Do you think that Four Nations thing can actually propel a guy
Yeah.
to do something he hasn't done in the postseason?
To me, what amazes me is how much of a split there is between Connor Hellebuck's playoff stats
Yeah.
and regular season stats.
Yeah.
To me, I don't understand that. And I think he's an amazing goaltender, and I think it's due to turn for him, is it not?
It should be, but it's due to turn for the Leafs. It's due to
Right.
turn for everybody. Like, in the end, when you're playing the same team potentially 7 times in a row,
So much can
you
change.
start to pick apart, like, okay, this is what this guy does well. This is what he doesn't do well. You look at that first game, go back to, and we talked about it at nauseum, Colorado, Winnipeg. That first game was 7-6,
I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Georgie 5 looked like me in the net. He was awful, and we were like, okay, that's like Winnipeg's going to rinse them. Colorado doesn't have a goalie, but lost in all that, it's like, okay, well, Hellebuck gave up 6 that night,
Yeah.
Right.
and then Colorado locked it down. Georgie 5 played all right, and they were like, that was it. Colorado just took over. And I don't know how many, we did the stats, it was screen plays, just get in front of Hellebuck, keep him in the net, and he couldn't see the puck. And Colorado just rinsed him. And then afterwards, his media's like, you guys aren't going to believe this, but I felt great in that series. Well,
Yeah.
like, you were giving up 5 a
No,
night.
we don't believe
Like,
it.
Can't stop it, you can't see.
but it just,
Yeah.
they found a way to get to him and really focus on his weaknesses, which every player has weaknesses.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why people aren't all in on Winnipeg. They should be all in on Winnipeg based on what we're seeing. But we're going, okay, playoff hockey looks different. Ehlers, smaller guy, maybe not as. I think their third line could be the best third line in hockey.
It is.
Like when you've got Lowry, Nita Ryder,
yes.
and Appleton. But, does it translate into the playoffs? Those guys do. You need saves. You need systematic play. I don't know what's happened the last couple of years, but when it comes to Winnipeg, for me, you got to show me. It's the same thing with Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
Talk about
I would
got to show me.
argue the same thing with Washington.
Right.
Like Washington's had a phenomenal year. Yet I think we're going to look at a scenario where both these teams are going to run away with the 1 seed, and there's going to be a lot of doubt. Like if I offered you guys right now the 1 seed, Washington and Winnipeg versus the Field, which ticket would you take?
The Field.
Field all day.
Exactly.
It's hockey, right?
No,
It's
I know that, but like if Vegas was doing what Winnipeg's doing,
Yeah.
and Florida was doing what Washington's doing, you'd take Vegas and Florida. I believe you would.
Probably.
I think most people would be like, I'm taking those two, man. They've won. I know what
And
they
they look
are.
unstoppable,
And they look
right?
unstoppable. I'm not betting against those two tickets.
Yeah.
But Washington, Winnipeg as the ticket, you're taking the Field.
Yeah.
And I think the majority of people would.
See, but here's where I think Washington has a massive advantage over anybody. They had nobody on their team play at the Four Nations. So their whole team got a 2-week break. And you see the way they've come out of the break?
Right.
Yeah. It does
And
make
they're
sense.
massive, too. Like you always talk about it, Noodles. Like they're a big team.
Well,
and,
even their
but you're right, they're
skilled
healthy.
Players are big. That
Yeah.
Protish,
Oh, he's a large.
he's a
he's a
monster.
and he can fly. Like fly. He's a great skater. Dubois, who looks reinvigorated.
Yeah.
Like he's mean.
Well,
to
you
play.
see it from the
Ice level.
Ice level.
Like-
Ice level gives you the perfect perspective of how big that team is, and you're
Yeah.
not the only guy that said that. I've heard it from
big.
many people. Johnny has said it too.
Tom
Size
Wilson.
is big,
Like
yeah.
forget Tom Wilson plays there. Like he's an animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's so big. Like Mangiapane is a nice addition. He's playing on their fourth line. He had 28 goals a couple years ago in Calgary. Like they have a really good team, and sometimes a trade works out for both organizations. Chychrun is
Those
a
are the
perfect
best ones.
fit. Perfect
And
fit,
Jensen.
and Nick Jensen's a great fit
Yeah.
for the Ottawa Senators. And Washington's really happy. Ottawa's really happy with their player. It's just been a great fit. Logan Thompson has been unbelievable, probably more than what they expected. But comes back to Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren. They don't have a deep history in the playoffs.
Right.
True.
It's a lot like the Leafs. Like, how many playoff starts does Woll and Stolarz have combined? I think Stolarz has 0 because he came in on a mop-up last year with Bobrovsky, that ugly game in Edmonton. And Woll's got 6?
Five,
Five,
six.
6.
Single
like
digits,
maybe a
yeah.
couple six. But you got to go through the process. That's the thing. And, you have to play. Like, whether it's Woll or Stolarz, they're going to have to play. Same thing with Lindgren or Thompson. Who knows how that's going to unfold?
Yeah. Hayes, I got to ask you. Do you think there's a part of you or a part of Sidney Crosby that will surprise everyone between now and the trade deadline after knowing what it's like to play with his buddy Nate McKinnon at the Four Nations, that he rethinks his situation in Pittsburgh?
I'm not sure it happens before the trade deadline. It feels like an off-season move for Sid, right? Like now, if he's going to eventually conclude that
He got the taste
should
of
move
winning
on,
again.
That's the thing. And if you're going to get to that conclusion, do it as quickly as you can.
Yes.
Like if it's in the back of your mind that you kind of realize, all right, I don't think I can finish this dance. It's going to get worse before it gets better, and that's likely what's going to happen in Pittsburgh. Then
You don't think
get out
there's
in
a
front
part of
it.
you that sees Nate McKinnon sending this guy text messages all the time?
Oh, you
after
know
they
McKinnon
lose?
would love to make
Come
it
on,
work.
bud.
Right.
Come on, let's
Yeah.
do it again.
Absolutely.
We could be doing those, pre-game practice drills, post-game practice drills. We can be riding Zambonis through Tim Hortons. Come on,
Yeah.
bud.
Oh, for sure,
we
man.
could be doing it.
But listen, Sid just had an incredible 2 weeks where he was front and center. That Sweden game, he was the best player on the
Yeah.
ice again. But it's also a scenario where he's a guy, he's won so much in his life and in his career that I don't Like, it's not as if he hasn't won in 10 years or 15 years.
Right.
You know, like, it's been a while in Pittsburgh, and we haven't had best on best in a while. But all the guy knows is winning effectively. Like, the whole Pittsburgh situation is very unique. Outside of his rookie year, they've been in the playoffs basically every year up until the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And again, it's driving the wrong way. I'd like to believe it, but I'll believe it when I see it. That Sid finally says, I
just
need to
think
get out of here.
He's a guy that nobody knows anything about. He doesn't have social media or anything. I just feel like this could be one of those
Out of left field.
Do you think
Out of left
do
field.
you think it would likely be quiet too? Do you think like it would leak? Like, do you think Sid would make it a mandate? I'm doing it, and I'm doing it to this team, and I want it done tonight, and then it gets out,
That's
or do you
the
think it would
Sidney way.
leak out? Like, hey, there's some rumors, like Sid's name's out there.
Okay, so how about this then? The two teams. Anybody hear anything? Did any insider get an inkling on the Rantanen trade?
No.
That was
nothing.
feathers for
There was
everybody.
Yep.
Well, that's the same team you're talking about. So on one side, they've been pretty quiet. I'm pretty sure that they go, if we're going to do something, this is, cloak of the veil of secrecy.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be. For some reason, I think it's an off-season thing, but maybe that train have sailed because Colorado, is a good team right now. They've got cap space. I just looked; they get around $5 million in cap space. They can add a really
make it
good player
happen.
at the deadline.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
especially
Pittsburgh can eat money. I mean, the idea that you'd have to eat money on Sid would be crazy, but.
Well, just to make it happen. And the other thing,
But he's got term on his deal now. That's the thing. He's not a UFA. He just signed the extension. Not that Colorado or any other team would handle that or deal with it.
They'd find a way to make the
Make
full
him a-
salary
Yeah,
work.
like that's the thing about Sid going there. It's not, hey, give it a 3-month shot. Once you go, you're there, and you're presumably playing the rest of your career there. And I'm not convinced this guy's just going to retire when he hits 40.
yeah.
I'm not convinced of that at all. All this guy does is play hockey and live hockey. Like he's a freak for hockey. He still talks about it like he's a 5-year-old kid.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if he plays another 5 years.
That's what I'm
That's what it
saying.
takes him. But doesn't it bother you the sense, like you heard Brad Marchand come out the other day too and said, I'm a lifer, Boston Bruin for life. Only in hockey do guys say that.
Yeah.
You don't see it in the NBA.
true.
You don't see it. It's like these guys have been there for forever and they got a chance to go somewhere else to win. Like, no, I'm comfortable here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
Move
which
on,
brings
man.
us.
You know what I
Get
mean?
out of there.
Everyone's worried about legacy.
Yeah.
Great. Everyone's going to remember your legacy where you're at, but people still want to see you, compete for championships.
That's been my argument with Sid the whole time. Is I don't want to see it just because it's already happened.
Yeah.
Like for 2 weeks it was Sid. He was in our lives again,
How
and
many
now he goes
people
back to
love
Pitt.
watching him play at that level?
Exactly, and now he's back in Pitt, and I won't spend 1 second watching
what
him
I
play
mean.
hockey the rest of the year.
Well, I watched
Not
him.
1 second.
Look, I'll say
That's the
this.
truth.
Yeah, Noodles will be the guy watching them, but for sure. But I'll say this: you understand it to an extent, Carlo, because when you're royalty in a city, there's something special about that, right? And there aren't.
But that's not going to
to
change.
Well, it changed. You're right. It probably won't change in the grand scheme, but it's going to change for a few years if you leave town for the remainder of your contract. If you're Sidney Crosby, right? And look, he's looked at the Mario Lemieux model, and where you essentially you are a regal king-like figure in town. What could be in your future? There could be ownership in your future. There could be executive opportunities in your future, and he might get those. If he becomes a Colorado Avalanche for a few years here and goes back to Pittsburgh, I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I think guys see that as very attractive. Say, I played in one jersey, it's now retired, this is my town.
Do you think it's noble to do that, though? Like it's all up to him, obviously. But if he wants to finish his career with the Pittsburgh Penguins, at some point they're going to have to blow it up and go scorched earth. And that's sooner than later.
They're basically already there.
I understand that. But
Yeah.
I'm saying really scorched earth.
Yes.
And they don't have
Ugly.
assets. They don't have a bunch of guys pushing through like the Washington Capitals.
They got a lot of draft picks coming up. I think.
You got 30 or so. You got 30 in the next 3
Now
years.
you look at there's a lot of
But they're all-
third-round picks in
Exactly.
there.
They're from
and
third round and back.
yeah, it's not.
The thing about it is you've got to find a way, if you're Sidney Crosby, to go, okay, what's going to challenge me the next 3 years? It's the Olympics, because he'll play there next year.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And maybe chasing another Stanley Cup.
Exactly.
If he goes somewhere else.
If you
yeah.
go somewhere else. But who do you think there? I mean, this is more a big picture. Is there anybody right now that's halfway through their career or heading towards the end of their career has been with one organization that will finish it out.
Well, Ovi clearly is that
Right.
guy now. I mean,
Dylan
Ovi-
Larkin, maybe.
I mean, Marchand's the other one.
Marchand would be the other one.
Captain of the Boston Bruins is a nice.
Larkin's
beat,
younger,
right?
but what I mean, I see him as like Captain Detroit.
seems like he's Mr. Detroit, but at
Never
some
know.
point, if they don't turn a corner or not, I know they're in
Right.
a playoff spot now. Maybe he has
I just
some different ideas on what he wants to do
Sydney's
in his career.
I'm never going to speak for him.
Well,
I'm just
Malkin
saying-
and Letang can follow his suit there too.
That's the amazing thing is all three of them have
Right.
been there the whole time.
they could share that same legacy together.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's. I mean,
I know it's different with Sid, but
they just said at some point you hear Karlsson's name being floated.
Well, of
like
course.
Right now,
I mean, dude,
Love to get rid of him.
Yeah, who wouldn't want to move off Karlsson right now? He's got 2 years left at $10 million or whatever.
man, if he could get his act back together, he had 100 points 2 years ago.
I
Yeah,
know.
the worst team in the league. I mean,
Still, I mean, that's 100 points is 100 points. Like I don't know. He looked like a little bit invigorated
I
there in
wouldn't
Sweden.
touch that. There is nothing you could do to convince
Really?
me to
So
take
tomorrow-
Erik Karlsson.
tomorrow-
Nothing.
It's rumored that the Leafs are in on Erik Karlsson.
Unless
And
Sid's
then
coming with
and
him.
make- and make him,
Throw Sid in
make
there.
him a $5 million defenseman.
With
No,
Sid.
we're going to stick with Connor Timmins.
Yeah, for $5 million? I'm not paying him
that's-
$5 million.
You're saying if they're going to eat half of it.
I'm saying if Erik Karlsson was a $5 million defenseman,
I'd
I
take
think there
it.
would be a lot of teams.
I
that want
wouldn't.
him.
I wouldn't
take it
touch
just
it
because of the
man.
power play.
Oh,
They don't have a power play defenseman.
The Leafs don't?
You have 5 forwards.
They
Five
don't.
forwards, but I don't know. It's just an interesting. Like that's making up BS things. But
Well, I mean, I think
make
that
him
would
a-
be available. I think if Brad Living, now maybe not with the Leafs, but I think if someone called them up and said, we'll take Karlsson, you got to eat half the. I mean, in reality, I think Pittsburgh's going to have to likely do that.
No, they're gonna
likely
have
have
to.
to eat
Yeah,
half
for sure.
of it, or at least a significant portion of it. You could do that deal, I think.
yeah.
Is anyone going to do it? Do you think Karlsson's a Penguin on March 8th?
I don't know.
I think he is.
I can't.
I can see him getting traded.
I could see him getting traded too.
right.
CJ was on with us this morning, and he said there's a lot of anxious fingers out there with the GMs with their phones right now.
About Karlsson, though.
No. Just about
I think
trades.
this
Just about trades in general.
Sure, I got you.
comes back to
Yeah.
maybe where everyone feels like the league is wide open.
Wide
so
open.
Why
Yeah.
not go in on it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
This guy is like,
He'll be a Leaf on March 7th. Erik Karlsson, he's coming here. You just know it. And he'll be electric.
yeah.
as
All of a sudden, you'll be like, "What a great
always
trade!"
love that
Like,
idea.
Always love that idea.
Always
Yeah.
love that idea. All right, Habs on TSN tonight. We'll catch you on the panel, and we'll
Thanks,
catch
buddy.
you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. There he is, Carlo.
Thanks, boys.
Colaiacovo. One half of First Up every morning, Monday through Friday, right here on TSN Radio. Jack Armstrong coming up. Raptors, Celtics, Luka, and the Lakers at home against the Mavs tonight. We'll get to that next. All right, best bets later in the hour. It's all about Toronto-Boston tonight. Leafs, Bruins, and the Celtics are in town. Celtics, Raptors tonight. And Raptors coming off a really impressive win on Sunday. That Phoenix team, man, there's just some weird stuff going on with that. Some weird stuff. But I thought Scottie was great. I thought, him attacking KD, and he took him out of the game. Like, Durant had nothing on Sunday. And they won big, and Darko's made it clear post All-Star break. It's about development. It's about culture. We'll see
And
how
the
many games they
management,
win.
the management's made it clear that it's about the draft.
It's more about the draft,
Yeah.
which is fine. We're this deep into the season. You might as well end it. But
Right.
still, we'll see what they have in store tonight. Boston's one hell of a team. The champs are in town. Here's Jack Armstrong, our TSN Raptors analyst. How's it going, Jack?
Guys, good. I'm here in the beautiful Scotiabank Arena, about to call the game on TSN TV. So happy to be on with you, gentlemen.
Yes. So what are we expecting here? I mean, when you consider coming off the other night where I thought they obviously played really well, won big against Phoenix. This is a different beast with Boston in town. But Scottie, the focus on the defensive side of play and the way that he has been playing recently, it seems to be taking more and more pride in that as the season's gone on. What have you seen out of him defensively in particular, Scottie Barnes?
I think he's playing more within, at this point in his career, where his game is, in terms of playing nearer to the basket and then really using his length and athleticism and ability to guard to be an impactful guy on both ends. So, at this stage of his career, he's not necessarily a three-point shooter, and that's fine. Do what you do and do it well. And when he gets into the mid, low post, he's very effective scoring around there, and obviously as a passer, as a unselfish guy in the open court. And then defensively, he can guard all the positions. So to me, he's dialed in and playing at a really high level. So that's what has to happen for him to continue to grow. And those other steps from a skill perspective will take place more in the off season than right now. It's just so hard with limited practice time. But I like what I see from him. Having quickly back in the lineup and healthy, his ability to shoot the ball gives your offense more spacing and more creativity. I think it makes it easier for everyone else to be that much more efficient. And right now you're doing that without Jakob Poeltl, a guy that you involve quite a bit in your offense in terms of throwing him the ball, and his ability to move it around quickly and his outstanding screen setting and ability to finish at the rim is big. But they're playing better defense. I think they're protecting the ball. Guys know their roles a little bit better. There's not as many silly turnovers leading to easy scores, so therefore they're able to lock into their coverages a little bit better. They look more like a team. They're still going to have their share of droughts and mistakes because particularly when you play all those young guys off the bench, that's going to be a problem. But nonetheless, I think it's going to pay dividends as you go forward in the years to come, that these guys have been thrown in the fire, and you're going to see these guys develop that much quicker. So I think it's a good thing. Think about it, tonight, Boston, and then tomorrow at Indiana, two good teams. Mm-hmm. And then after that, the schedule goes the other way. They have the easiest schedule in the NBA after tomorrow night. And, depending on what school of thought you're from, and you guys kind of nailed on both sides in terms of are you trying to win or you're worried about the draft, the schedule could become a real issue if you're in Tank Nation, because even if you're trying to not necessarily win 50 games, which you're not gonna, or make the playoffs, they might have no other choice because the team they're playing against, never underestimate the other guy has more problems than you do.
Right.
and there's a bunch of those teams remaining that are on the schedule. So I'm fascinated to see how it all plays out.
So Jack, we began this season listening to Masai Ujiri talk about a rebuilding year, and a lot of the rebuilding, let's face it, is figuring out what you're building around. And you talked about Scottie and the step that could be taken with more development of his game and refining of his skills. Like if you're looking at this guy, through the offseason, and what could he bring to his game that would make him the foundational piece of an NBA franchise, like where would you be adding?
Well, I think we're too obsessed in this league with three-point shooting. Not everyone could be a 40% three-point shooter. You look at a guy like Giannis, he kind of knows what works for him, and he rolls with it. And he stays with that what benefits him. And to me, I think for Scottie Barnes, if he can be an adequate, solid, low mid-30s three-point shooter at a low volume and do the things that, in my opinion, really benefit the team a significant amount, and that is being a guy that's an absolute beast in the low post, who can score consistently out of there, that has a few pet moves, a few counters to those pet moves around the basket, and can operate consistently in the mid-range as well. To me, I think is big. And I think the more shooting you put around him, the more space he has to work with. I think the more matchups he can win, because he's got he has real good ball handling skills. He has excellent vision, and he can navigate, particularly if he's got space to navigate. So to me, when I look around it, a lot of it's going to be roster construction, but some of it's going to be him, really developing a few pet moves that right now, some of it's playing on talent, and now you got to take that next step and play a little bit more with some skill. And the other thing is just that nasty temperament night in, night out. Again, I mentioned a guy like Giannis. Talent-wise, is he overwhelmingly more talented than guys in the league, or is he overwhelmingly more determined? I would say he's overwhelmingly more determined. And what I'm seeing of late from Scottie Barnes is a guy that's a heck of a lot more determined. And you put that determination with his talent, you could have a guy that could end up being a consistent all-star in the years ahead.
So, Jack, you got 25 games left, roughly. To me, what is the perfect scenario for the Toronto Raptors for the rest of this season? Is it just development? Is it, gaining a bunch of points? Like, what did you, if you had a crystal ball and something that you would love to see happen here down the stretch, what would it be?
Oh, my goodness. The perfect development would be tons of development and getting Cooper Flag. I mean, that would be the ideal. That would be the absolute utopian existence if that happened. And the guy's a great talent. Now, do I think he's on the level of a Victor Wembanyama? Probably not that level, but probably a half notch below that. But a guy that could come in and you add to what you have currently. And right now you have a Brandon Ingram not playing. You got Pirtle, and you got some of these young guys that they have. I think it's go time if you had a roster next year that's healthy with the current group that you have, and you have some guys healthy, and you add a really good young player. You look at what the Detroit Pistons have done this year. Now, are they going to win an NBA championship this year? No, but they're fighting for a fourth, fifth seed right now. They're right on the backs of the Pacers and the Bucks. So it's a great turnaround. And I think if you look at the Eastern Conference right now, this is the conference that you can make that turnaround in. So as much as you look at the Raptor record, they're not that far off. And to me, if things work out a good way, they could be a good competitive playoff team next year. And once you get to there, then a lot of positive things can happen. If you look back to the last way they built the title team, it was in steps. And but you got to win, and you got to have players that experience winning, and expectations have to be higher. And to me, I think that environment has to exist. So that would be the ideal.
With Jack Armstrong, do you think at any point in his wildest nightmares, Nick Nurse would be looking at the standings and saying, my Sixers are only 2 games up on my former team, and the Raptors from the hop
in a rebuild
said, we're rebuilding, it's going to be a tough year. They've lost 8 in a row down there in Philly. Embiid, I was reading about some of the surgeries they're talking about. It's out of this world type stuff. They've got a top 6 protected pick. It's crazy what's going on in Philly. Like, do you empathize at all for Nick? I mean, and how much worse could it get before it gets better down there?
No, I feel for Nick. I think he's one of the great coaches in our league. Obviously, he won a championship. It's a mess there. I was shocked. I was a little surprised that they went and got Paul George, an older player, and gave him a lot of money, and they gave him 4 years. You see what the Heat did trying to get out of a Jimmy Butler deal, that a guy similar age, and it's just a lot of money to tie up into an older guy. Man, it's a mess there, and they're on the hook for a lot of years with Embiid, and it's not only his knee, it's conditioning, it's what's been created around him since he broke into the league, and all they were trying to do was lose games. And that creates a bad standard, a bad habits, a lot of things that kind of go into a player's makeup. The guy, they haven't won. They've won, but they haven't won. And to me, I think it's a huge problem. I feel for Nick. If you could do it all over again, I think if you were Nick Nurse, look, the money's great, but you were getting paid by Toronto for another year. You sit the year out, you hang out, and you jump back in. So instead, you jump in Philly, and everyone thinks, wow, what a great job it is. And unfortunately for him, it's not a good situation.
Disaster. A disaster.
I feel for him it's a really difficult spot to be in. And, the people that understand what's going on will not blame him, but there'll always be people that will. But it's a hard scenario to go away from unscarred.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack, just wanted to ask you about, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, obviously having an incredible season, the presumptive NBA MVP. his team, the OKC Thunder, have the number one seed in the West. But interesting turn of events last night. They blow a big lead to Minnesota, and Chris Finch, the Minnesota coach, I think was attempting to plant a seed in the mind of NBA referees, complaining that you can't touch Shai. They're a very frustrating team to play against because you can't touch Shai. Sort of inferring that he's foul baiting a little bit, that maybe the ref's got to keep an eye on this guy. He does go to the line more than almost anybody in the league. And I'm asking you, do you think Shai's running the risk of maybe being the James Harden Rockets type of situation, maybe even the DeMar DeRozan Raptors era, where he's relying a little too much on drawing fouls, and that might not play in the playoffs? Or how do you see that?
Well, the whistle traditionally gets a little looser in the playoffs. So you're going to have to play through more contact. So, yes, that's an issue. Do I think it's his fault? No, I think he's a competitor. He's going to take every edge he can get. And if he's going to get that edge, he'll take it. I also think, though, when the postseason comes around, he's a smart enough player, and they have a good enough coaching staff that they'll adjust to whatever the whistle is. And if you're Chris Finch, you're smart. You look at where you are in the standings, you might be playing them potentially in the first round or at the very least the second round. So, you're trying to already plant that seed, so which is smart on his part. And by the way, his guy Edwards gets a lot of benefit of the doubt as well.
No doubt.
There's a lot of great players that do. So, it's all gamesmanship. It's all nonsense. It's all playing to the cameras and trying to get into the heads of the officials. And, the top officials in the league, when you get a really good crew on a game, they're not going to let any of that stuff influence them in any way, shape, or form.
All right, Jack, it's going to be a good one tonight. The champs in town, Celtics, Raps. Enjoy it. Have a great call. We'll catch you on TSN tonight.
Guys, enjoy, by the way, Luka's return to Dallas. That'll be fun. I think we got that game on TSN tonight as well, right?
It's going to be outstanding, man. I think he's going for 40-plus. Do you have a read on that, Jack?
40-plus or have a 40 after the game?
Both. The ultimate double-double. 40-plus and a 40 after the game.
That's the Euro double-double.
Yes. I love it. And he loves it too, man. He's going to be dancing, and he will have a party waiting for him after that game.
That's right.
He's very comfortable all of a sudden in L.A. I think it's going to be a fun one.
You know what? Hey, Babe Ruth hit a lot of home runs, and, he wasn't necessarily Mr. Physical Fitness.
That's right.
There you go.
Not everyone has to look like me. I mean, some other guys figure out a different way.
It's overrated. It's overrated. It's going to be a fun night of basketball on TSN. Enjoy it, Jack. We'll do it again soon.
All right, guys. All the best.
There he is, Jack Armstrong, our TSN Raptors analyst. And looking over this Raptors schedule, it is terrifying if you're a part of Team Tank because they got Boston tonight, at Indy tomorrow. That's tomorrow is kind of a scheduled loss, back to back, and then at Indianapolis, or at Indiana.
Amazing how things are just scheduled.
Yeah, it's that one's probably a loss. But then they have a stretch coming up where they go Utah, Washington, Philly, Utah, Portland.
Yeah.
At Phoenix, too. And Phoenix is a disaster. That's a run of games where they probably win 3 times.
You think?
Yeah.
And maybe 4.
I was going to say, couldn't you get 4 or 5?
Well, Washington, you're probably beaten twice.
Right.
You got them 3 more times this year.
And they're
Philly's
horrendous, and Utah's the worst team in the West. You're probably Utah, Washington, Philly, Utah. You very well could go 5-0 there.
Yeah.
Even trying to tank.
You're right.
They're
trying to tank too.
That's the thing. How do you out-tank the tank? It's
tough.
Someone's got to win the game.
But the players aren't going, hey, we're tanking.
No, that's the thing. They're going to play.
Right.
So there's if you're Messiah and Bobby, there's nothing you can do. You got to play the game. You're not going to tell your guys to quit.
But you wouldn't mind it if Scottie is shut down with the sprained ankle for a few weeks.
That's what might have to happen. Is Scottie?
Oops.
Darko's handing out raw chicken at the pregame meal or something.
Jakob Poeltl, you're still out, and you're going to remain out. You're not returning because
that's the only way to engineer it. Because you're right, it's a disaster for lottery odds.
But those teams are looking at it too, going, we're going to serve the raw chicken and do that on the other side too, because we can't have this team.
Oh yeah,
we can't beat this team.
You know how ugly it's going to. They got Brooklyn twice. They're tanking. They got Philly twice. Now they're going to tank because they want to finish. They might as well. It's over. You got to tank.
Utah's tanking.
You got Portland multiple times. You got Utah. You got San Antonio multiple times. They're tanking now without Wemby.
Yeah.
Probably. You got Darren Fox, but you're out of it. It's over.
You're right.
Crazy.
So
the tankathon.
Big trouble.
That's
man.
where their tour will be. The tankathon.
It's
That's what it is.
big. Who can be worse in a game where both teams desperately want to lose?
Yeah.
What a sales pitch for the sporting event.
Tough.
Best bets coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Bruins on the puck line. I think it's a close game. If the Leafs win tonight, I think it's 3-2, maybe in overtime. I don't think they're going to blow out Boston tonight. Bruins have got to get it together. The Leafs have already played twice since coming back. This is your third game in 4 nights, 3 different cities. This is a tough one for the Leafs tonight.
Yeah.
I think it's a tough game. So Bruins puck line, William Nylander 3+ shots on net. That parlay paying plus 134. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Live same-game parlays are now available for every NHL game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19+, physically located in Ontario.
See how it
All right.
goes.
We'll see.
Keep in mind, their big boys haven't really done anything the last couple. Maybe
Matthews and
it's
Marner.
and Nylander too.
Yeah.
A couple of assists for Willie, but you're right.
You know what
You're
I
right.
mean?
Yep.
Maybe they go, all right, we can have it.
And Stolars is healthy and ready to play.
Yeah.
Maybe he
That's the
stands
thing.
on his head
I
tonight.
think you're going to get goaltending no matter what
He
happens.
very well could.
There you go.
Raptors in action, then Luka at home against the Mavs. I'm looking forward to that game tonight.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Good seeing you guys. As always, Dave, great
being
seeing you.
here.
Thank you
Great
for doing
being
this.
here.
Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.